Tae-yoon stood in the center of the massive chamber, feeling the weight of 1,000 eyes upon him. The Galactic Council chamber was bigger than any building on Earth, floating in orbit around a planet that belonged to no one. The walls seemed to stretch forever upward, and holographic displays showed the faces of species from across 7 galaxies. He had practiced his speech 100 times, but now, standing here alone, he felt the distance between Earth and the rest of the universe. He was human. Just human. And in this room, that meant almost nothing. The chamber fell silent as Council Leader Vrex raised one of his 4 arms. The Vorath were insectoid creatures, with hard shells that gleamed under the chamber lights, and mandibles that clicked when they spoke. Vrex had ruled his people for 3,000 years. He looked at Tae-yoon the way someone might look at an interesting bug. "The human wishes to speak," Vrex announced, his voice carrying through the chamber without need for amplification. "We shall hear this petition, though we have heard it many times before." Tae-yoon activated his datapad. Images appeared in the air around him, showing Earth's achievements. He kept his voice steady and professional. "Honored council members, I come before you representing the unified Earth government. For 15 years, we have served as provisional members of this council. We have shared our resources, our technology, and our knowledge. Today, we formally request full membership status with voting rights." A sound rippled through the chamber. It took Tae-yoon a moment to realize it was laughter. One of the Kellen representatives shimmered into a brighter form. The Kellen were beings of pure energy, considering themselves far above physical species. "Full membership? You are children playing with tools you barely understand," Tae-yoon continued, ignoring the interruption. "Humanity has developed faster than light travel in just 80 years. We have successfully terraformed 2 planets in our own system. Our quantum computing and medical technology have been shared freely with Council species. Shared freely because you need our protection," said Commander Thax of the Drusari. The reptilian warrior's scales shifted color with amusement. "Your species still experiences individual death. You are fragile, short-lived, and alone in the universe. What could you possibly offer us?" "We offer innovation," Tae-yoon replied calmly. "We offer fresh perspectives. You offer nothing we cannot take," Vrex interrupted. His mandibles clicked together in what might have been a smile. "Humanity has been spacefaring for barely a century. My people had colonized 1,000 worlds before your species learned to make fire. The Mithros had achieved telepathic unity while your ancestors were still living in caves." A Mithros delegate, its aquatic form floating in a hovering tank of water, projected thoughts directly into the minds of everyone present. "We feel the human's emotions. Pride, desperation, fear. Such primitive feelings, they are not ready to stand among the enlightened." Tae-yoon felt heat rising in his chest. But he forced it down. He had been trained for this. He knew they would mock Earth. He knew they looked down on humanity. But he had to try. "We may be young as a species," he said. "But youth brings adaptability. We learn quickly. We solve problems in new ways. In the last 50 years alone, we have..." "Enough." Vrex's voice cut through the air like a blade. "We have been patient with humanity. We allowed you to join this council as provisional members because you had potential, but you remain too primitive for true membership. You lack wisdom. You lack the long view that comes with lives measured in millennia. Your entire civilization is a brief flicker in the timeline of the galaxy." The other council members murmured their agreement. Tae-yoon watched as his carefully prepared presentation was dismissed without even being fully heard. He had brought charts showing human population growth, technological advancement, and cultural achievements. None of it mattered. "The council has decided," Vrex announced. "Earth will remain in provisional status for another standard century. Perhaps by then, you will have matured enough to deserve consideration. This session is concluded." Tae-yoon gathered his materials slowly, carefully. He would not give them the satisfaction of seeing him rush away in shame. As he prepared to leave, He heard a voice from one of the lower galleries. Kelth, a young Drusari aide, was speaking to his companions. But he had accidentally activated his communication device, and his words were broadcasting throughout the chamber and to every connected network across council space. "Walking meat with delusions of relevance," Kelth said with a harsh laugh. "Did you see how he actually thought they would accept? Humans are resources, not equals. We should simply harvest their worlds for the benefit of actual civilizations. Why waste time pretending they matter?" The chamber went absolutely silent. Tae-Yoon stopped walking. He stood perfectly still for a long moment, his back to the council. Then, slowly, he turned around. His face was calm. His voice was quiet. But every being in that chamber could hear him clearly. "You should not have said that," Tae-Yoon stated. "Not publicly. Not where my people could hear you." Vrex waved a dismissive arm. The aide spoke out of turn, but his sentiment is shared by many. "Humanity, you must understand your place in the galactic order. You are new. You are weak. You are barely worthy of our attention." Tae-Yoon looked at each council member in turn. He memorized their faces, their positions, their attitudes. Then he looked directly at Vrex. "I will convey your decision to my government," he said. His voice was still quiet, but something in it had changed. "And I will convey Aide Kelth's suggestion that Earth's worlds should be harvested." "See that you do," Vrex replied. "Perhaps it will teach your people some humility." Tae-Yoon picked up his materials and walked toward the exit. As he passed through the massive doors, he heard the council members returning to their regular business, already forgetting about the human who had wasted their precious time. None of them noticed the expression on Tae-Yoon's face as the doors closed behind him. None of them saw him activate his emergency communication device. None of them understood what they had just done. The message reached Earth in seconds, traveling through quantum-linked relays that humanity had developed in secret. In the message was a full recording of the session, including Kelth's broadcast statement about harvesting human worlds. Tae-Yoon walked through the corridors of the council station toward his ship. Behind him, the council continued their important discussions about galactic policy and ancient disputes between species who had been arguing for thousands of years. They had no idea that they had just made the greatest mistake in galactic history. They had mocked humanity. They had dismissed Earth's achievements. They had threatened to harvest human worlds like crops in a field, and they had done it where billions of humans could hear them. Tae-Yoon reached his ship and sat in the pilot's seat. He set course for Earth, but before engaging the engines, he sent one more message to the council. It was brief, professional, and absolutely cold. "I will return in 72 hours with my government's response. I suggest you prepare yourselves." Then he activated the faster-than-light drive and vanished into the darkness of space, leaving the council to laugh about the angry human who thought his species mattered. They would not be laughing in 3 days. The ship touched down in Seoul just after midnight. Tae-Yoon had been traveling for 18 hours, but he knew sleep would not come tonight. Through the viewport, he could see crowds gathered outside the landing facility. Thousands of people holding signs and shouting words he could not hear through the hull. The news had spread faster than he had traveled. The entire planet knew what the council had said. The entire human race had heard themselves called walking meat, had heard their worlds described as resources to be harvested. 2 security officers escorted him through underground tunnels to avoid the crowds. They said nothing, but Tae-Yoon could see the anger in their eyes. Everyone was angry now. Even the usually calm security personnel looked ready for violence. The emergency session had already begun when he arrived at the United Nations headquarters. President Hwan Cho stood at the head of a curved table, where Earth's most powerful leaders sat in tense silence. Fleet Admiral Dae Kim wore his full uniform, every metal polished and gleaming. Dr. Nari Song had her datapad open, fingers moving across it constantly. Intelligence Director Bit Han watched everything with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Diplomatic Corps Director Yuna Park, his own superior, gave him a small nod as he entered. "Ambassador Tae-Yoon," President Hwan Cho said. His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the edge of the table hard enough to make his knuckles white. "Tell us everything." Tae-Yoon did. He spoke for 20 minutes without pause. describing every moment of the council session. He told them about the mockery, the dismissal, the casual contempt in Vrex's voice. He told them about Kelth's broadcast statement. He left nothing out. When he finished, silence filled the room. Then Fleet Admiral Day Kim spoke. They actually said they should harvest us. On an open channel, where every human settlement could hear. Yes, Tae-yoon confirmed. How many protests are happening? Yuna Park asked. Bit-Han answered without looking at his notes. 347 major demonstrations across Earth. Every colony world has declared a state of emergency. Our people on the frontier stations are demanding immediate military response. I have reports of 6 attempted attacks on Council embassy buildings, all stopped by our security forces. Our people are ready for war, Dae Kim said quietly. President Hwan Cho stood and walked to the window. Outside, Seoul's lights stretched to the horizon. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were demanding action. Demanding revenge. Demanding that Earth show the Council what humanity truly was. Director Bit-Han, the president said, still looking out the window. What do they actually know about us? Bit-Han allowed himself a small smile. Very little, Mr. President. Their last intelligence update on Earth's military capability was conducted 14 years ago. They believe we have approximately 200 warships, mostly destroyers and frigates. They think our weapons are still based on projectile and early energy technology. They have no idea we achieved quantum disruption capability 8 years ago. They think we're helpless, Dr. Nari Song added. She closed her datapad and looked around the table. They see our civilian technology and assume that's all we have. They don't know about the black projects. They don't know what we've been building. Dae Kim leaned forward. Mr. President, with your permission, I would like to present our actual military status. Hwan Cho turned from the window. Show me. The Fleet Admiral activated the holographic display at the center of the table. Numbers and images filled the air. Ship designs. Weapon specifications. Deployment locations. Project Silent Thunder is fully operational, Dae Kim began. We have quantum disruption weapons capable of disabling every electronic system in a star system. The Council has no defense against them because they don't believe such technology is possible. The Wraith Fleet, he continued, and new images appeared. Sleek, dark ships that seem to absorb light. 2,000 stealth vessels. Invisible to every known sensor type. We've had them positioned throughout Council space for 6 years. They've never been detected. Dr. Nari Song spoke next. Singularity missiles. Each one can create a temporary micro-black hole. We have 3,000 of them in secure storage. And the neural protocol is ready for activation. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier can be linked into a single coordinated network. Response time. 0.03 seconds. Good God, Yuna Park whispered. How did we build all this without them knowing? They stopped paying attention, Bit-Han said simply. They saw us as primitive and assumed we would stay that way. Their arrogance is their weakness. President Hwan Cho sat down heavily. How many systems do we actually control? 47 fully militarized systems, Dae Kim answered. 12 fortress worlds that could each withstand a year-long siege. Our manufacturing capacity exceeds the entire Drusari Empire. We've been building in secret for 30 years, disguising military facilities as civilian infrastructure. We've been preparing for this, the president said slowly. We've been preparing for the possibility, Dae Kim corrected. We hoped we would never need it. But yes, Protocol Chimera has been ready for activation since last year. Tae-yoon had heard rumors about secret projects, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. Earth had built an entire shadow military, while pretending to be a minor power, barely capable of defending its own solar system. They think we're weak, he said. They're about to learn otherwise, Dae Kim replied. President Hwan Cho stood again. He looked at each person around the table, measuring them, judging their resolve. I need to be absolutely clear about what we're discussing. If we activate Protocol Chimera, if we show them what we truly are, there is no going back. The galaxy will never see us the same way again. They already don't see us as equals, Unipark said. They see us as meat to be harvested. True. The president walked slowly around the table. But if we do this, we must do it perfectly. We cannot show weakness. We cannot hesitate, and we must be willing to follow through if they refuse our demands. What demands? Taeyun asked. Huancho smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Full council membership. Complete voting rights. A public apology broadcast across every galactic network. And a mutual defense treaty that recognizes Earth's sovereignty forever. They'll never agree, Unipark said. They will when they understand the alternative. Bithan brought up new displays. I've analyzed Council military deployments. They're scattered across 7 galaxies. Powerful, but spread thin. If we strike simultaneously at key locations, we can disable 60% of their military capability in the first hour. We're not striking, the president said firmly. We're demonstrating. We want them to understand what we could do, not what we will do. There's a difference. A demonstration, Dae Kim said thoughtfully. Show overwhelming force without using it. Exactly. We surround their fleets. We target their installations. We show them proof that we could end their military power in a single day. And then we give them a choice. Treat us as equals. Or face the consequences. Dr. Narisong nodded slowly. The Korean system. It's uninhabited. We could demonstrate the quantum disruption weapon there. Collapse the star's quantum field. They'd see what we're capable of without any loss of life. How long would we need to prepare? The president asked. 72 hours, Dae Kim answered immediately. We can have every asset in position within 3 days. The president looked at Taeyun. You told them you would return with our response in 72 hours. Yes, Mr. President. Perfect timing. Huancho sat down and placed his hands flat on the table. Here is what we're going to do. Ambassador Taeyun will return to the council exactly when he promised. In the meantime, we activate Protocol Chimera. Every ship moves into position, every weapon is armed, every soldier is ready. And when Taeyun arrives, Unipark asked, he will show them the truth. He will show them that humanity is not weak, that we are not helpless, that we are not meat to be harvested. The president's voice grew harder with each word. He will give them one chance to make this right, and if they refuse, then we show them what humanity does to those who threaten genocide against us, Dae Kim finished. The room fell silent again. This was it. The decision that would change everything. War or peace, submission or equality. The end of humanity's quiet existence in the shadows of galactic power. President Huancho looked at each of them one final time. All in favor? Every hand rose. Then it's decided. Activate Protocol Chimera. Show the galaxy what Earth has become. Within minutes, encrypted messages began flowing to every human military installation across known space. The orders were simple and clear. Prepare for war, but hope for peace. Captain Yul Jin was drinking coffee in the mess hall of the merchant vessel Morning Star when the message arrived. The ship was hauling mining equipment to a frontier colony, a routine run he had made 100 times before. The crew was relaxed, playing cards, and talking about shore leave. Then his personal communicator vibrated with a pattern he had hoped never to feel. 3 short pulses, a pause, 3 more pulses, another pause, 3 final pulses. Protocol Chimera. Yul Jin set down his coffee carefully and walked to his cabin without running. No need to alarm anyone yet. He locked the door behind him and opened the encrypted message. As he read it, his heart began to pound. All assets to deployment positions. 72-hour countdown initiated. Weapons free authorization pending. He had been waiting for this order for 6 years. The Morning Star was not a merchant vessel. Beneath its civilian hull was a warship with enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. He was not a merchant captain. He was a commander in Earth's Shadow Navy, and his real job was about to begin. Yul Jin returned to the mess hall and caught the eye of his first officer. He gave a subtle hand signal. Within 3 minutes, The entire crew had quietly gathered on the bridge. "Chimera is active," he said simply. No one spoke. They had all known this day might come. Every crew member on the Morning Star had volunteered for this assignment, knowing they would spend years pretending to be ordinary merchants while carrying weapons capable of destroying worlds. "Strip the camouflage," Yuljin ordered. "Navigation. Set course for the Drax sector. Communications. Send ready status to Fleet Command. Weapons. I want a full combat check in 30 minutes. The ship came alive." Panels slid back to reveal hidden weapon ports. False cargo containers were jettisoned into space, revealing missile tubes and energy weapon arrays. The Morning Star's civilian disguise fell away like a snake shedding skin. Across human space, 800 similar ships were doing the same thing. The Council had seen them as harmless merchants, research vessels, and colony transports. They were wrong. In the darkness between stars, something else was happening. Something the Council's sensors could not detect. Commander Hay 1 stood on the bridge of the stealth destroyer Ghost Wind and watched the tactical display. Her ship had been hiding in the Oort cloud of a Council system for 3 years, completely invisible to every scan and sensor. She and her crew had practiced perfect silence, barely daring to breathe, while Council patrols passed within kilometers of their position. Now the silence was over. "All systems to active standby," she ordered. "Maintain stealth protocols, but I want weapons ready to fire on my command." Around her, 2,000 other stealth ships were receiving the same orders. The Wraith Fleet, Earth's invisible sword, was preparing to strike. They had been positioned throughout Council space for years, waiting and watching. Every major military installation, every strategic resource, every fleet assembly point had human ships nearby, unseen and undetected. The Council had no idea they were surrounded. 47 light-years from Earth, Colonel Hana Lim was running combat drills with her Special Forces team when the activation order arrived. She was tall for a Korean woman, with enhanced muscles and reflexes that made her faster and stronger than any baseline human. Her team of 60 soldiers were all like her, genetically modified and cybernetically augmented. They were the tip of Earth's spear, designed for surgical strikes against high-value targets. "Lock and load," she told her team. "We deploy in 60 hours. Target packages are being uploaded now." The soldiers moved with perfect efficiency, checking weapons and equipment. Each one knew their role. If war began, they would insert onto Council homeworlds and eliminate military leadership before anyone knew they were there. Quick. Silent. Lethal. Hana Lim looked at the target list as it appeared on her display. Council Leader Vrex. Commander Thax. Every major military commander across Council space. If the President gave the word, these beings would not live to see the next sunrise. She hoped it would not come to that. But she was ready if it did. On Earth, in a facility buried 3 kilometers below the mountains of Tibet, Dr. Nari Song initiated the neural protocol. Quantum computers hummed to life, establishing connections across light-years of space. Every human warship, every weapon system, every enhanced soldier received a neural link. They became one. A fleet of 15,000 vessels thinking with a single mind. Response time measured in milliseconds. Perfect coordination across the entire galaxy. No confusion, no miscommunication, no delay between order and execution. The Council's various species had hive minds and telepathic networks. They thought this made them superior. They had never seen what human technology could accomplish when given a clear purpose. Dr. Nari Song watched the synchronization rates climb to 100%. Every asset was connected. Every weapon was ready. Every soldier knew exactly what everyone else was doing at all times. "Neural protocol is active," she reported to Fleet Admiral Dae Kim. "All systems responding perfectly." "Excellent," Dae Kim replied from his flagship. "Maintain ready status." The flagship Soul's Fury was one of 12 super dreadnoughts that Earth had built in absolute secrecy. It was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons that no Council species had ever encountered. Dae Kim stood on its bridge and watched status reports flow across multiple displays. Every hour, more ships reached their positions. Every hour, The net grew tighter around Council military power. And still, the Council noticed nothing unusual. Intelligence Director Bit Han sat in his darkened office and monitored Council communications. He had access to their military channels, their diplomatic networks, even their personal messages. Years of careful infiltration had given Earth eyes and ears throughout the Council. He listened as Council commanders discussed their normal duties. He watched as diplomats gossiped about minor political disputes. He saw messages about trade agreements, scientific conferences, and cultural exchanges. Not one word about unusual human activity. Not one mention of concern. They were completely blind to what was happening. Bit Han allowed himself a cold smile. The Council believed their technology was superior. They thought their ancient civilizations had learned all the tricks of warfare. They were confident that primitive humans could never surprise them. They were about to receive the shock of their existence. A message arrived from one of his agents embedded in the Council's Military Intelligence Division. It was brief. Council reviewing human petition. General consensus. Humans will apologize and accept their place. No defensive measures being considered. Perfect. The 72 hours ticked by with agonizing slowness. Human ships moved into position like chess pieces on a galactic board. Weapons were armed and targeted. Soldiers prepared their equipment. Scientists ran final checks on systems that the Council did not believe humans could build. And through it all, the Council remained blissfully ignorant. Some Council species detected unusual quantum fluctuations. A few noticed odd patterns in background radiation. Twice, Drusari patrol ships passed within sensor range of human vessels and detected nothing. In the Council chamber, ambassadors discussed trivial matters. They argued about trade routes and mining rights. They debated philosophical questions that had occupied them for centuries. Life continued as normal, as it always had, as it always would. None of them knew that human weapons were aimed at their hearts. Taeyun spent the 72 hours reviewing every detail of what he would say and do. President Huan Cho had given him complete authority to speak for Earth. The weight of that responsibility was crushing. One wrong word could start a war. One mistake could doom billions, but he was ready. On the final day, he boarded his diplomatic ship and began the journey back to the Council chamber. Behind him, visible only to those who knew where to look, 15,000 warships followed in perfect formation. The galaxy held its breath. The Council prepared to laugh at the human who had returned, to beg for mercy. And Earth prepared to show them the price of arrogance. 12 hours before Taeyun's scheduled arrival, President Huan Cho sent one final message to all human forces. This is not a war of conquest. This is not revenge. This is a lesson. We will show them what we are capable of, and we will give them one chance to choose peace. But if they choose war, we will show them no mercy. We will show them what happens when you threaten humanity with extinction. We will make them understand that we are not prey. We are predators. Every human in the military chain of command received the message. Every ship captain read it to their crews. Every soldier committed it to memory. They were not the aggressors. They were not starting this conflict. But they would finish it. The countdown reached 0. Taeyun's ship arrived at the Council station. The demonstration was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Council chamber was packed. News of the human ambassador's return had spread quickly, and species from across the galaxy had sent representatives to witness what they assumed would be humanity's humiliation. The galleries were filled with beings who had come to watch Earth beg for forgiveness. They were in for a surprise. Taeyun walked through the massive doors alone. No delegation. No assistants. Just one human in a simple black suit, carrying a single data chip. His footsteps echoed across the polished floor as he made his way to the speaker's podium. Council leader Vrex regarded him with what might have been amusement. His mandibles clicked in a rhythm that other Voreth recognized as laughter. "The human returns," Vrex announced to the chamber. "Has Earth come to apologize for wasting our time? Have you learned humility in these past 3 days?" Taeyun did not respond immediately. He placed the data chip carefully on the podium and looked up at the Council members seated in their elevated positions around him. He saw the same contempt, the same dismissal, the same absolute certainty that humans were beneath their notice. "I have a message from the unified Earth government," he said quietly. His voice carried clearly through the chamber despite its softness. "This chip contains 3 items. First, the current coordinates of every council, military vessel, station, and installation. Second, the quantum signatures of every council leader's personal ship. Third, a live tactical feed." He paused, watching their faces. Some looked confused. Others appeared annoyed. None looked concerned. "You may activate it whenever you wish," Taeyun said. Vrex waved a dismissive arm. "More human theatrics. Very well. Let us see what desperate propaganda Earth has prepared." The Council's technical staff activated the chip. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the chamber's holographic display system erupted with data. The first thing that appeared was a star map showing the entire galactic region under Council control. Red dots began appearing across it. Hundreds of them, then thousands. Each one represented a targeting reticle locked onto a Council military asset. The chamber fell silent. "What is this?" Commander Thax demanded, his scales shifting to a darker color. "This is every Council military installation, fleet assembly point, and strategic resource currently under human targeting," Taeyun explained calmly. "The red indicators are real-time tactical locks. Each one represents an active weapon system aimed at your forces." "Impossible," the Kellen representative shimmered. "We would have detected such a deployment." "You did not," Taeyun said simply. He activated the second part of the display. The live tactical feed showed multiple views from different locations across the galaxy. In each one, Council fleets suddenly found themselves surrounded by ships that had not been there seconds before. The Wraith fleet had uncloaked. 2,000 stealth warships appeared simultaneously around every major Council military concentration. Dark, sleek vessels that seemed to absorb light materialized from nothing, their weapons already locked onto their targets. Gasps and shouts filled the chamber. Council military commanders were frantically checking their own tactical displays, confirming what they were seeing. Their fleets were surrounded, their installations were targeted, their most secure locations had human warships positioned within firing range. "This is your one chance to understand," Taeyun continued, his voice never rising. "Humanity did not seek this conflict. We came in peace. We offered cooperation. You responded with contempt and threats of genocide." Vrex rose from his seat, his forearms spreading wide in a gesture of anger. "You dare threaten the Council? We have existed for millions of years. We have crushed empires that spanned galaxies. You will do nothing," Taeyun interrupted. His voice, for the first time, carried an edge sharp enough to cut. "Because 43 minutes ago, Earth demonstrated our quantum disruption weapon on an uninhabited system in Council space. Your sensors detected it. Your scientists are analyzing the data right now." A Kellen representative flickered urgently. "The Corian system. The stellar readings are impossible. The star is destabilizing. We collapsed its quantum field," Taeyun confirmed. "The star will go supernova in approximately 4 years. We can do this to any star in Council space." He let that sink in for a moment. "But we will not, because unlike you, we do not threaten genocide casually." The chamber erupted in chaos. Some demanded immediate war. Others called for negotiation. Several species began arguing among themselves. The ancient order of the Council was crumbling before their eyes. Taeyun waited patiently for the noise to die down. When it did not, he activated another function of the data chip. A single tone cut through the chaos, forcing silence. "The unified Earth government offers you a choice," he said. "You will grant Earth full Council membership with complete voting rights. You will issue a public apology for your statements regarding the harvesting of human worlds. You will agree to a mutual defense and cooperation treaty that recognizes humanity's sovereign equality. And if we refuse?" Commander Thax growled, his claws extending in a threat display. Taeyun's expression did not change. Then, in exactly 5 minutes, Every Council military installation will be destroyed. Your fleets will be disabled. Your communication networks will collapse. And humanity will spend the next decade systematically dismantling every empire that threatened us, until the galaxy understands one simple truth. He paused, looking at each council member in turn. We will never be harvested. We will never be dismissed. And we will never be slaves. A Mithros representative attempted a telepathic assault, trying to force Tae-Yoon to his knees through pure mental power. The attack was strong enough to incapacitate most physical beings. Tae-Yoon blinked once. Neural countermeasures, built into implants that every human diplomat now carried, activated instantly. The telepathic assault rebounded with triple force. The Mithros screamed and collapsed, his tank of water sloshing violently. Do not try that again, Tae-Yoon said mildly. The holographic display updated. New images appeared, showing human warships in orbit around every council homeworld. Not just military targets anymore. The message was clear. Earth could strike anywhere. President Hwan Cho's face appeared on the display, broadcast from Earth. This is not a bluff. This is not negotiation. This is reality. You have 4 minutes to decide if your pride is worth the extinction of your military power. 4 minutes to decide if you want peace or war, Tae-Yoon added. The council members looked at each other. Some were calculating odds. Others were frantically communicating with their military commanders. All of them were realizing the same terrible truth. They had been wrong about humanity. Catastrophically, unforgivably wrong. Vrex's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress. You expect us to simply surrender? To bow to threats from a species we could have crushed a week ago? You could not have crushed us a week ago. Bithan's voice came through the display. The intelligence director appeared in a small window. You could not have crushed us a year ago. You could not have crushed us at any point in the last 15 years. We have been stronger than you for over a decade. We simply chose not to reveal it. Quote, 3 minutes, Tae-Yoon said. Commander Thax was receiving reports from his fleets. His expression grew darker with each message. My commanders report human ships in positions they cannot possibly have reached. They report weapons systems we have no defense against. They report. He trailed off, his scales shifting through colors that indicated fear. They report that we are completely surrounded, he finished quietly. 2 minutes, Tae-Yoon said. The Kellen representatives were conferring urgently among themselves. Their energy forms pulsed with agitation. Finally, one of them addressed the chamber. We have consulted our strategic analysis networks. The human tactical advantage is total. We calculate a 97% probability of complete council military collapse if conflict begins. We recommend immediate acceptance of Earth's terms. Accept? Vrex's voice was filled with outrage. Accept? Surrender to these equals, Tae-Yoon finished for him. That is all we have ever asked for. Equality, respect. Recognition that despite our youth, we have value to contribute to the galactic community. 1 minute, President Hwan Cho announced. Vrex looked around the chamber at the other council members. He saw fear in faces that had not known fear for millennia. He saw species that had never lost a war calculating the cost of starting one they could not win. He saw the end of council supremacy. 30 seconds, Tae-Yoon said softly. The council leader's shoulders sagged. His mandibles stopped clicking. For the first time in 3,000 years of life, Vrex felt what humans called helplessness. Wait, he said. The countdown stopped at 15 seconds. We accept, Vrex said, each word seeming to cause him physical pain. Earth will receive full council membership. We will issue the apology. We will sign the treaty. Tae-Yoon nodded once. Wise decision. He activated his communicator. All human forces, stand down. Maintain targeting locks, but hold fire. The Council has chosen peace. Around the galaxy, 15,000 warships remained in position but did not fire. Weapons stayed armed but stayed silent. Soldiers relaxed slightly but stayed ready. The formal agreements will be drafted within the week, Tae-yoon said. Until then, human forces will remain at current readiness levels. We trust you understand why. Vrex understood perfectly. Earth was giving them a chance. But that chance came with a gun pointed at their heads. One wrong move, one betrayal, and the war would begin. We understand, he said quietly. Tae-yoon picked up his data chip and turned to leave. Then he stopped and looked back. One more thing, he said. Aide Kelth, who suggested harvesting human worlds, will stand trial for attempted incitement of genocide. We will conduct the trial on Earth. You will extradite him within 48 hours. It was not a request. Agreed, Vrex said. Tae-yoon walked out of the chamber. Behind him, the council sat in stunned silence, trying to comprehend how thoroughly their world had changed in 5 minutes. The galleries slowly emptied. Representatives from minor species whispered among themselves, already calculating how this shift in power would affect their own positions. On Earth, celebrations erupted across every continent and every colony. Humanity had stood up to the galaxy and won without firing a single shot. The mockery had ended. The new era had begun. 3 weeks had passed since the Council's surrender. The galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. News networks across thousands of worlds broadcast the same story again and again. Humanity, the species everyone had dismissed as primitive, had brought the ancient council to its knees without firing a single shot. Ambassador Tae-yoon stood before the council once more. But everything was different now. The mockery was gone. The casual dismissal had vanished. When he spoke, council members leaned forward to listen. When he made suggestions, they were taken seriously. He was no longer a petitioner. He was an equal. The first matter before this council, Tae-yoon said, his voice carrying the weight of authority, is the Sentinel Accord. Earth proposes a galaxy-wide defense network designed to protect developing species from exploitation. He activated a display showing the proposed structure, a network of monitoring stations, rapid response forces, and diplomatic outreach programs, all designed to ensure that no species would ever face what humanity had faced. We propose this, Tae-yoon continued, because we remember what it felt like to be dismissed. We remember being called meat. We remember being threatened with harvesting. No other species should experience that. Council leader Vrex, who had spent 3 weeks in deep contemplation, spoke carefully. This is a significant proposal. It would fundamentally change how we interact with younger civilizations. Yes, Tae-yoon agreed. It would. The question is whether you learned anything from what happened, or whether you will continue as you always have. The chamber was silent. Every species present understood the implication. Earth was offering a hand in friendship, but that hand was backed by 15,000 warships. The vote was called. The Sentinel Accord passed unanimously. After the session, Yuna Park approached Tae-yoon in the corridor. You did well. The president will be pleased. The president gave me everything I needed, Tae-yoon replied, including the knowledge that our military stands ready if the council forgets this lesson. Do you think they will? Tae-yoon considered the question. Some will remember. Others will resent us forever. But all of them will respect us now. That is enough. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Dae Kim was integrating human tactical doctrine into the Council's joint military operations. The Council had requested this, somewhat desperately, after realizing how badly their own strategies had failed to account for human innovation. He stood in a training facility outside of Busan, watching Council military officers study human combat techniques. A Drusari commander was practicing small unit tactics with a squad of human marines. A Vorath strategic planner was learning how to coordinate forces using the neural protocol. They were learning quickly. The arrogance was gone, replaced by genuine curiosity. Captain Yuljin approached and saluted. Sir, the integration of the Q ships into the official fleet roster is complete. Command wants to know if we should begin revealing the other classified projects. Dae Kim shook his head. No. The Council knows we have advanced technology, but they do not need to know exactly how much. Let them wonder. It keeps them honest. Understood, sir. In her laboratory beneath the Tibetan mountains, Dr. Nari Song was sharing some of Earth's technology with council scientists. Not everything, of course. She had been very specific about what could be revealed: quantum computing, advanced materials, medical technology that could extend lifespans by decades. The things Earth kept secret were far more interesting. The singularity missiles, the next generation of stealth ships, the neural enhancement programs that created soldiers like Colonel Hana Lim, a Kellen scientist, its energy form pulsing with excitement, examined a quantum processor. This technology should not be possible for such a young species. How did you develop it so quickly? Dr. Nari Song smiled. Necessity is the mother of invention. When you are small and surrounded by larger powers, you learn to be clever. We underestimated you. Yes, she agreed. You did. Intelligence Director Bithan sat in his office reviewing classified reports. The council had agreed to all of Earth's terms, but he trusted nothing without verification. His agents throughout council space were monitoring communications, watching for signs of betrayal or resentment. What he found was more interesting than simple anger. The council was fracturing. Some species were attempting to establish direct alliances with Earth, hoping to gain favor with the new power. Others were forming defensive pacts, worried that humanity might become aggressive. A few minor species were openly celebrating, glad to see the ancient powers brought down. But there was something else, something that bothered him. He had been investigating how the council had developed such contempt for humanity in the first place. The archives showed a different picture. 20 years ago, council members had been cautiously optimistic about Earth. They had spoken of humanity's potential. Something had changed their minds. Someone had cultivated their arrogance and encouraged them to dismiss Earth as primitive and worthless. Bithan pulled up communication records and financial transactions. He tracked information flows and diplomatic exchanges. And slowly, a pattern emerged. Someone had been manipulating the council. Someone had wanted Earth isolated and vulnerable. He sent an urgent message to President Huan Cho. This discovery could change everything. In Seoul, President Huan Cho read Bithan's report with growing concern. The evidence was circumstantial but compelling. An outside force had been working to turn the council against humanity. The question was why. He called an emergency meeting with his top advisors. When they assembled in the secure conference room, he shared the intelligence. Someone wanted us isolated, he said. Someone wanted the council to see us as primitive and dismissible. The question is who and why. Dr. Nari Song studied the data. The pattern suggests a long-term operation. Decades of subtle manipulation. This was not random chance. Could it be one of the council species? Unipark asked. Bithan shook his head. The manipulation affected all of them equally. This was an external force. Then who? President Huan Cho demanded. The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Yul Jin, back from a patrol of the frontier regions, sent a priority message. His sensors had detected unusual jump signatures near the galactic rim, ships using technology that matched no known species. Fleet Admiral Dae Kim pulled up the sensor data and felt his blood run cold. Unknown vessels, he said quietly. Using stealth technology similar to our own. Multiple contacts on the edge of explored space. The pieces fell into place. Someone had wanted the council focused inward, fighting among themselves, dismissing potential allies. Someone had wanted the major powers distracted and divided. Because something was coming. 2 days later, Ambassador Tae-yoon received a classified message during a council session. He read it quickly, his expression darkening. Then he requested an emergency address to the full council. We have a problem, he announced. A problem that makes our recent disagreement look insignificant. He shared the sensor data from the frontier. The unknown contacts. The evidence of manipulation. The pattern of preparation for something larger. The council members looked at the information with growing alarm. Even Vrek seemed shaken. What are they? Commander Thax asked. We do not know, Tae-yoon admitted. But we know they have been watching us. We know they manipulated the council to keep us divided. And we know they are moving closer. How long do we have? A Kellen representative asked. Fleet Admiral Dae Kim appeared on the display. Based on their current trajectory and speed, we estimate first contact within 6 to 8 months. Maybe less. The council chamber erupted in worried conversation. For all their age and experience, the council species had grown comfortable. They had forgotten what it meant to face a truly unknown threat. Tae-yoon waited for silence. When he had it, he spoke clearly. This is why Earth proposed the Sentinel Accord. This is why we wanted unity instead of division. Because we knew, from our own history, that the greatest threats come from outside, not within. He looked at each council member. You mocked us for being young. You dismissed us for being primitive. But youth has advantages. We remember what it means to face the unknown. We remember how to adapt and survive. What do you propose? Vrex asked quietly. Joint defense, full cooperation, complete intelligence sharing. We combine our strengths instead of competing. We prepare together for whatever is coming. Tae-yoon's voice was firm, and we do it now, because we may not have much time. The vote was unanimous. Colonel Hana Lim and her special forces teams deployed to the frontier. Their orders were clear. Gather intelligence on the unknown vessels, and prepare defensive positions. Captain Yul Jin took the Morning Star and a small fleet of Q ships into deep space, establishing early warning stations. Dr. Narisong began working with council scientists to develop new defensive technologies, combining human innovation with ancient knowledge. And the Wraith Fleet, which had so recently been prepared to destroy council military power, now moved to protect council space from whatever was approaching. In his private quarters on the flagship Seoul's Fury, Fleet Admiral Dae Kim looked at star maps, showing the unknown contacts. They were getting closer, moving with purpose, coming toward council space with clear intent. He thought about how close the galaxy had come to civil war, how close humanity had come to fighting the council instead of standing with them. Someone had wanted that war. Someone had tried to ensure the galaxy would be divided and weak when they arrived. They had failed, but just barely. Sir, his communications officer reported, we are receiving a transmission from the frontier. It is Captain Yul Jin. Put it through. Yul Jin's face appeared on the screen. Behind him, alarms were flashing. Admiral, we have made visual contact with the unknown vessels, sending imagery now. The image that appeared made Dae Kim's breath catch. Ships unlike anything he had ever seen. Massive, dark, and there were hundreds of them. They are not attempting communication, Yul Jin reported. They are simply advancing. Slowly but steadily. Fall back to defensive positions, Dae Kim ordered. Do not engage unless fired upon. Understood, sir. The transmission ended. Dae Kim immediately contacted President Hwan Cho. Mr. President, we have confirmation. Something is coming. Something big. In the council chamber, Ambassador Tae-yoon was addressing an emergency session when the news arrived. He paused mid-sentence as the visual data was shared across all displays. The unknown fleet, advancing toward them all. This is what we face, he said quietly. This is why we needed to stop fighting each other. Because now, all of us, together, have a real battle ahead. He looked around the chamber at species that had dismissed humanity just weeks ago. They ridiculed Earth at this council, he said. They called us primitive. They called us meat. They threatened to harvest our worlds. Vrex lowered his head, ashamed. But now, Tae-yoon continued. Now we stand together. Human, Vorath, Kellen, Drusari, Mithros, all of us. Because whatever is coming, it threatens all of us equally. He smiled grimly. You thought humanity was the danger. You thought we were the threat to your ancient order. But we were never your enemy. We were the wake-up call you needed. And now? Vrex asked. Now we find out if the galaxy learned its lesson in time. The unknown fleet continued its advance, and the galaxy prepared for war.